Welcome back, second grade scholars. Today is Tuesday, May 26, 2020, and not only is it the first lesson of the week for math, but it's also the very first day for our hat and accessories week. If you participated in Rainbow Week, this is another way for you to show your spirit for distance learning and your love for learning. And you can do that by wearing a hat, an accessory, a sunglass. I'm wearing some bracelets that I got when I was a little kid from my aunt. Awesome. Let's jump back in here with our next measurement lesson. So today we're going to be doing some measurements, and then we are going to be comparing those measurements. And it's really important here that I mention that when you're comparing measurements, you need to make sure that you're talking about numbers within the same unit. You can only compare measurements in the same unit. So let's jump in here. So part A, this is our problem solving test. It actually has 3 parts, but I'm going to have us just do part A and part B. I'm going to have you pause the video to be able to do those 2 things. So part A, use the ruler to measure the colored pencil and crayon in centimeters. So here's your colored pencil, here's your ruler, here's your crayon, and you have the rulers underneath. Your job is to measure them in centimeters. I'm already noticing that they definitely don't start at 0, so I'm going to have to draw my lines and zoom in here to make sure that I'm getting an accurate measurement. And then part B says, how much shorter is the crayon than the colored pencil? So right now I want you to measure these 2 objects and then answer part B. Pause the video so you can go ahead and do that. Awesome. Hopefully you've had some chance to figure out the measurements of the colored pencil and the crayon and then answered part B. We're going to jump into this together. So for part A with the colored pencil, I can already tell that it doesn't start at 0. So I can't just look at the end point here where the pencil ends to get my measurement. I'm going to have to do some math. So I'm going to start by drawing my starting point. I'm going to draw a line at the tip of the pencil and connect it to my ruler. As I can see here, that measures out to be 1 centimeter. That's where it's starting. And then I'm going to follow it along and I'm going to draw a line. Ooh, wow. It's not directly at any number. In fact, it's actually between the numbers 12 and 13. But as you can see here, it's past the midpoint or the halfway point. So because of that, I'm going to round up and I'm going to call that 13 centimeters. Awesome. So here I have it. I have that my colored pencil is starting at 1 centimeter and it's going all the way to 13 centimeters. So I know that I can use my ruler like a number line to figure it out. I also know that I can figure out the length by saying, well, 1 plus what gets me 13? Well, I know that 1 plus 12 equals 13 because 13 is just 1 more than 12. So I know that the colored pencil measures 12 centimeters. Now I'm able to figure out the length of my crayon. And as you can tell here, same thing. It's not starting at 0, so I need to draw my line. So I'm going to draw my line at the tip of the crayon to connect to the ruler. That matches perfectly with 7 centimeters. Now the end of my crayon, ooh, it's between 13 and 14. I'll zoom in here so you can see that. It's between 13 and 14, but it's past the halfway point, so I'm going to round up because it's closer to 14. Awesome. So 7 plus what equals 14? This is the doubles fact. 7 plus 7 equals 14. So we just figured out that the length of the crayon is 7 centimeters. Awesome. So I finished part B, and now I'm able to use this information that I got to answer I finished part A. Now I can use this information to answer part B. Part B says, how much shorter is the crayon than the colored pencil? Okay, how much shorter? That's asking us to figure out the difference between these 2 measurements. If I'm figuring out the difference, that means I know my 2 amounts. I know how long my colored pencil is. I know how long my crayon is. Now I need to figure out that difference. So I could represent this in a bar model. My colored pencil is a bigger object. So I'm going to write CP for colored pencil. Or C pencil, that's fine too. however you want to do it. And I'm going to draw a bar, and I know that this bar represents the colored pencil's length, which is 12. I can even include the unit there. And now I know that the crayon is shorter, so I'm going to write crayon. And I know that the crayon is about 7 centimeters. But what I don't know is the difference between the two. So this is the part that I'm figuring out. Since I know the length of the colored pencil and the crayon, I need to do some subtraction here to figure out the difference between the two. So 12 minus 7 equals what? If you solve that in your head, you got 5. So the difference between the two is 5 centimeters. Fantastic. Now we're going to do one more part together because I wanted you to make sure you could see the ruler okay, and this is part C. Part C says, if there are 30 centimeters on a ruler, how many centimeters longer is a ruler than the colored pencil? So this should actually say longer. So how many centimeters longer is a ruler than the colored pencil? So we know that the whole ruler is 30 centimeters long. We know that the colored pencil is 12 centimeters long. So I need to know the difference between these two. So again, I'm going to draw a bar model to represent this. I'm going to start with R for ruler. We know the ruler is 30 centimeters long. That's much longer than the colored pencil. And then the colored pencil is 12 centimeters long. CP. Okay, colored pencil. But I don't know the difference between the two. I need to figure out how much longer the ruler is, so I need to do some subtraction to figure out the difference. So that would be 30 minus 12 equals something. So let's do an algorithm. 0 minus 2, I can't do that. I can't start with a smaller number and take away a bigger number. So I have to regroup to get more ones. So I group from my tens place. Now I have 2 tens and I have 10 ones. 10 minus 2, that's 8. 2 minus 1, that's 1. So the ruler is 18 centimeters longer. Awesome. So today we're going to be doing some measuring, and then we're going to be doing some, we're going to be comparing the lengths of different objects, and we'll be doing some addition and subtraction to figure that out. So if I turn my board here, we can get into our first practice problem that we're going to do together. Actually, you know what? I'm going to save the practice problem for you guys. I think it'll be easier. So measuring at home can be tricky sometimes when you're looking at the screen. So let's do problem number 2 together. I'm going to change that up right now. Now for problem number 2, it says use the ruler to measure the rectangles below in inches. So I have rectangle A and rectangle B. Now this is tricky, and this was tricky for many of us. Take a look at this ruler. I know it's representing inches, but does this rectangle start at 0? It doesn't. It has a line right here that we have to figure out the value, and the next number is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it doesn't start at 0, it actually starts at 4 inches. It's 1 less than 5. So because of that, I know that I'm going to make sure I understand that my starting point is 4 inches, and then over here my end point is at 8 inches. So it goes from 4 inches to 8 inches. Now I can think in my head, 4 plus what equals 8, and I can also use my ruler here to figure it out. Make my jumps. 1, 2, 3, 4. Awesome. So rectangle A is 4 inches. We just figured that out. Now I'm going to do the same thing here. But again, take a look at this starting point. Is this 0? I know it's not 0 because the next number is 6. So I know it has to be 1 less than 6. So this starting point is actually 5 inches. And it ends at 7 inches. So how many jumps do I have to make to go between 5 and 7? Well, 1, 2. So rectangle B measures 2 inches. Awesome. Make sense? I hope so. So now that we have our measurements, we're able to answer the second part of this question, which says, how many inches shorter is rectangle B than rectangle A. So we know the measurements of both rectangles. So now we're comparing the two. So I'm going to draw a bar model for this. Now, rectangle A, I'm going to do RA for rectangle A. I know that's longer, so that's 4 inches. I'm going to start with that. And then I'm going to draw a line for a bar for rectangle B. That's 2 inches. And we have to figure out the difference here between the two measurements. So that means I need to do subtraction. 4 minus 2 equals 2. We all know that. So that means that rectangle B is 2 inches shorter than rectangle A. Another way of saying that would be rectangle A is 2 inches longer than rectangle B. Fantastic. Now I'm going to have you pause the video here, and your job is going to be to answer question 1. I'll read it. Rachel's television measures 32 inches long. Sarah's television measures 60 inches long. How much longer is Sarah's television than Rachel's? Go ahead and pause the video and do some math to figure it out. All right, wonderful. I hope you've had a chance to solve this problem so we can jump in together and go over it. So, Rachel's television measures 32 inches long and Sarah's television measures 60 inches long. How much longer is Sarah's television than Rachel's? It's not asking me how long are they all together. It's asking me to compare their lengths. So I'm comparing these measurements. So I know that Rachel's TV is 32 inches and Sarah's TV is 60 inches. So that means that Sarah's is longer than Rachel, and our job is to figure how many inches longer it is. So let's draw a bar model. I know that Sarah's measures 60 inches. I'm always starting with my biggest bar at the top. And then I know that Rachel's measures 32 inches. And we have to figure out the difference. In order to figure out the difference, we have to do some subtraction. So that means 60 minus 32 equals what? Let's do an algorithm. 0 minus 2, I can't do that. I can't have a smaller number and take away a bigger one. So I need more ones. So I regroup from the tens place. Now instead of having 6 tens, I have 5. And instead of having 0 ones, I have 10. 10 minus 2, that's 8. 5 minus 3, that's 2. So here we are. Sarah's television is 28 inches longer. Awesome. For your exit ticket today, which is the next part of your assignment, I have uploaded some examples of student work. 2 students were asked to answer a question, and your job is going to see who did it correctly and what mistake did the other person make. So make sure when you're looking at that exit ticket, you're taking the time to maybe solve it yourself first. That's always a great strategy. And then thinking about who solved it right, and you're able to explain what the other person's mistake was. Awesome. I will be back tomorrow with another video for math. Please make sure that if you want to be featured in Morning Motivation with your accessories, or you want to share it with our parent group, that you post your pictures on Facebook or send them to Miss Hammond. And I will see you guys tomorrow.